Hey Internet, what's going on? This is AG Back Tech over here with Team RDW, bringing it back to the cave. Guess what? Want to get a chance to sit down with Josh again for another actual one-on-one interview. We were incredibly busy at PAX. He had his booth to run, and we had a lot of places to run around and go to. So yeah, this is kind of a little special feature treat, if you will, coming from my side of the table. Doing this stuff normally it's David, but I want to shoot my shot and give my chances going. Speaking of shooting my shot, we have our guest here, Josh. But without further ado, I'm gonna let the man introduce himself. So Josh, go ahead, introduce yourself. Let's go ahead and get cracking.
Yeah, what's up? I'm Josh. I work in the entertainment industry as a on-camera host for Marvel and Amazon. So I host the red carpets, the Comic-Cons, movie premieres, etc. like that. And I love video games. I'm a huge nerd, have a bunch of board games. And I just came out with a party card game called Change My Mind, which is how we met.
Yeah.
At PAX West, we had a booth there. And so this game just released in March of 2024. It's all about ranking and debating absurd topics. And I'm starting a business from the ground floor, and it's terrifying.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, definitely. It's honestly one of the things I really like about Change My Mind. It's basically just hear me out the game, and it's just been really fun. But we'll get into that in just a moment. So let's talk more about you. So like I mentioned before we just started, I was looking over your resume and going about that. So tell us about yourself. How did you get into the media industry from begin with? Because that's a huge foothold. Like I guarantee you that people like David and myself are like envious of you for being on such a high platform already.
Well, thank you for the kind words. It's crazy. So I was an actor for about 10 years, lived in LA for a bit, moved to New York, lived in New York for 7 years. And Marvel had this position opening, someone who loves the video games, loves the movies, loves the comics, and someone who's kind of wants to be their hype person. Yeah. It's like, you know what, let me try this. Let me shoot my shot. Why not? So they asked for a video audition, and I made a bunch of DC jokes on purpose. Cause I'm like, they're gonna get a bunch of like people that love Marvel and geek out about Marvel.
For sure.
But like, they're not gonna get anyone who's gonna like talk about Batman, because they'll be like, what is this kid doing? So after that video came out, or to the casting director, a couple days later, they're like, hey, we loved what we saw. We'd love to like have you in. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like, what? This is nuts. Yeah. But went in. Everyone was wearing, who's also in the audition room, was wearing a bunch of like Marvel outfits. And I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna wear red and blue. That's like the iconic hero color scheme.
Yeah. Okay.
Not gonna wear anything Marvel icons, no logos, no nothing.
Yeah.
So go in, meet like a bunch of really cool people. We talk about fantasy games, talk about fantasy books, just Marvel stuff. We're just nerding out. It's great talking about Risk, board games. And then next thing I know, I got it, which was crazy. And so that started about 7 years ago. My first red carpet premiere was Endgame, which was absolutely insane.
That's a
just like jumping right in.
That's a banger.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I didn't start with the first Avengers or Captain America. Yeah. No, I started with Endgame. I'm like, hey, wait a minute.
I was so nervous. I remember I went to the bathroom and Chris Pratt walks in, and I'm just like, using the bathroom. He comes in, he's using the bathroom. He's like 2 urinals down from me.
Yeah.
And he just starts singing. He's like, I was born by the river. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck, I'm gonna sing with him. I was like, change will come. And so we're just like peeing and singing together. I'm like, this is weird. I mean, this is hilarious.
I love it.
So yeah. So since then, I interview a bunch of voiceover talent and video game developers on the Marvel side. I'm lucky enough to be in the credits of most, if not all, Marvel games. So that's really cool on that side. I've done a bunch of Comic-Cons, over 7 years of Comic-Con, San Diego, New York, and I've hosted a bunch of red carpet premieres. So I'm just very thankful for that, and I love what I do. And I'm a hype person. I love to talk to people about how they created what they did, and I get to do that on the Marvel level. So that's how Marvel started, and Amazon was kind of slowly after that. So I kind of am a tech and gaming host for Amazon. I showcased a bunch of products live. People buy them, and they don't buy them, and they watch me showcase them. So yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because it was funny how when Dave and I were talking, right after you left to go check out the booth, and it was like we were setting up and getting ready to move to the next thing, he was like, well, I feel like I've seen him somewhere before. Then we had looked you up really quick. He was like, oh, he's a host. Like, we've probably seen him on trailers or red carpet events and things like that.
Yeah, maybe.
So, that's why he looks so familiar. Going into the icebreaker real quick, especially with you jumping off with the DC Comics, I have an icebreaker question for you, even though we already broke the ice. What is one movie prop that you wish you could use in real life? So, it could be anything. It could be the DeLorean actually being able to go through time. It could be the Infinity Gauntlet. If you want to go over to the Marvel side, like if you could pick one thing, what would you choose?
I'd probably, man. I mean, this might be a cop-out answer, but I'd probably choose like the Time Stone.
You know what? That's actually pretty fair. Like, the Time Stone, like all the stones are insanely powerful. I'd say
They're so powerful.
That's a good one. I think my personal favorite would actually be it's a tie between the DeLorean or the TARDIS from Doctor Who. But
why would you choose that when you could just get the time stone and do it all without that?
The DeLorean's a cool looking car. I know it was absolute garbage way back when, and then that's how it kind of came to be. But looking at it, I've always grew up with Back to the Future, and I always like really enjoyed watching it. Yeah. So it just feels like it just hits home to me. Time Stone is definitely up there with top 3, but of course, going with time travel, the TARDIS from Doctor Who it's basically a hammer space, but in a phone booth. And it's infinite possibilities. So it's like, well, I get the best of everything out of it. And
would you rather fly or teleport?
Ooh, teleport. Just because
for sure.
With flying, it's like I don't want to get caught by the FAA, and they'd be like, "Oh, why is this man in airspace?" I'm like, "See, I gotta get to work, and I don't have a lot of time." So yeah, but that's also been really good. And going off of Marvel, especially with you hitting right out the gates, doing hosting events for Endgame. Since you're a big nerd as well too, what's your favorite Marvel movie if you do have one? And then second question after that, do you have a favorite hero and or villain? Or anti-hero, depending on how you want to go about it.
Top 5, no order, MCU movies. Spider-Man No Way Home, Infinity War, Endgame, Winter Soldier, Civil War.
Good pick. Good picks.
I could potentially replace Winter Soldier with either a Black Panther or Guardians of the Galaxy, possibly.
Black Panther was a good one. Was personally one of my favorite Marvel movies. Next time,
it was so good. Yeah, I'm just sad what they did with Killmonger at the end.
It's just like it was like I love the idea, and I loved I love with that and Spider-Man: Homecoming where the villains were grounded enough to where it's like, okay, you know what, I can kind of see where you're coming from, and you kind of have a point. So I always love when, instead of just making a black and white villain, it's like, I'm just pure evil, I'm just going to turn everybody into dinosaurs because I can. It's like, no, I'm here because you guys didn't do anything. You said you were for us, and you didn't do anything.
And you didn't do anything.
We're going to do it ourselves. So I'm like, oh, you know what? That makes sense, and it
makes sense.
And that theming does get replicated like later in the comics. But that's definitely those are some good pulls. And then
it's like Killmonger's just like throughout the Black Panther comic run. So what saddens me is when you have an amazing villain, especially Michael B. Jordan, who just destroyed that
crushed
role.
It.
And they just like, okay, he's just gonna be one movie and done. I was like, no, man, like, what are you doing?
It's so much he could do. Like, I've been catching up on comic runs like here and there, and it's just like, ugh. Like, and I wish I also shout out to you, Mark, as well, because this is definitely a combo for you. Because Mark in our group, he's also a big comic guy. So if you've seen the episodes, him and our guy Alante will go on and on and on and on and on about comics, and it's actually really fun. So going back to that, you got a favorite hero or villain? I know we mentioned
favorite hero, Spider-Man. Since I was a kid, I mean, I would just like
you can't
after
go wrong.
School. Hell yeah! I mean, I'm wearing a Guardians of the Galaxy shirt.
Hell yeah!
Kind of hypocrite right now. But my place is covered in Spider-Man artwork that I've gotten from Comic-Con from artists, and I just that story of losing loved ones in your life and being like, no, I have to still prevail. When you're like at your wit's end and you just have that unlucky Parker luck, and you just keep on failing time and time again, but you're like, no, I just got to keep going because if I don't, who will?
Exactly.
So,
like, I'm also a huge fan of Spider-Man. He's probably one of my favorites. If you want to also add Miles Morales as well, because
Miles Morales is great.
I love his character. Like I love like, his new powers and what he could do. But I also love how Spider-Man is just like, hey, he's super relatable. Like, yeah, he's a superhero, but he's broke. Like, he's struggling. It's okay.
He's struggling.
The struggle is real.
Brian Michael Bendis' Ultimate Spider-Man run was my first Spider-Man introduction when I was a kid, and then that got me into Miles Morales Spider-Man because of that too.
That's a good one. Yeah, definitely. Like, I definitely popped in like back and forth for like some comic runs here and there, and then like I definitely fell in love with the character with like a lot of the live action movies, and then with Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse from Sony Pictures. Like, two of the best Spider-Man movies I've ever seen in my life, and I'm really hyped for the third one. I know it's been like delayed, there's like a bunch of crazy rumors, but at the end of it all, I'm super hyped to see it. I'm super hyped to probably watch it like 4 times and then grab the Blu-ray 4K collector's edition so that way because
like the old, whatever the collector's editions they have, like all 3 of them together.
Exactly. Like, it's a lot of really good stuff coming up, especially when it comes to like movies like that. At least like grabbing the DVDs while I can. I'm really excited.
Oh, always. Physical, always. What would you say your top 5 MCU are?
Okay, so Black Panther for sure. Like, definitely. Iron Man 1 was actually very good.
Iron Man 1?
I actually really liked it. I just love the idea behind it.
Definitely started it all.
Yes. Guardians Volume 2. That movie
Volume
was
2?
That movie was good. I like that movie.
Wow,
That
you don't
movie
hear
was
that at
real
all.
good.
I mean, I thought Volume 2 was better than Volume 3, but I wouldn't say Volume. Wow, that's wild.
Yeah, no, Volume 2 was good. You know what? The first Captain America was pretty solid. I kind of wish Captain America came first because it's like, hey, look, it's the earliest in the timeline for all the heroes. They find Cap, he gets thawed, and then that's how that goes. And then the last one, I'm gonna have to say, Spider-Man, the Sam Raimi, like Spider-Man 1, Sam Raimi.
I mean, that's not MCU, but I'll let it slide.
I was like, you know what? Actually, I forgot because like that, and I was thinking Fantastic Four. I'm like, no, wait, no, they're not MCU either. So I'll probably give it to Endgame, just because how.
I was gonna say, how is Endgame, Infinity War not in your top 5? That's
know what? It's funny. It's like I like those, but like after watching like Black Panther again and watching some of the other ones, I'm like, okay, it's very good for them to set up Thanos as like the big villain. I really wish like some of the other movies had. Well, they did pretty good, but I think like after all that, everybody got real tired and real burnt out of like this massive buildup. And then one thing I'm actually kind of hopeful for, I'm not sure. Oh, last time topic about comics. What are your thoughts about Robert Downey Jr. being Dr. Doom and how they're going to handle like Secret Wars and all the other stuff?
That's a heated question right there, my guy.
Weighted, if you will.
I can't go too much into my thoughts on that. All I'll say is like it was an interesting choice.
Yeah.
Very interesting choice. For me, my personal opinion is I thought Robert Downey Jr. did an amazing job with Tony Stark.
Yeah, he was great.
And that was a great chapter for that actor.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to do with Dr. Doom with him. I'm a little bit nervous. I'm a little bit worried. Mm-hmm. But time will tell. I guess we won't know until it comes out, right?
Honestly, we'll see. Like I'm hoping, like I'm cautiously optimistic because he's a very talented actor. However, Dr. Doom is so important to the Marvelverse with like, especially with Secret Wars being like talked about. That's like one of the biggest stories he's ever had, other than like his origin story, and that's been redone a couple of times. So I'm really hoping to see that that's going to go well. But let's go ahead and jump out of the comic pages real quick and actually jump back to the table when it comes to the card game. So you mentioned that you also like playing tabletop stuff. Do you have any personal favorites?
Dude, I love board games. I own over 80 board games. I've played board games since like 5 years old.
Ooh,
Risk is like my OG favorite game since I was a kid. I always play Risk. I love Risk Legacy. That's a great one. Let me look at my shelf right here. Gloomhaven was a good one. Nemesis is a great one. Lost Runes of Arnak. Scythe. Secret Hitler's great.
Secret Hitler's fun.
Love Secret Hitler. Clank's fantastic game. I mean, Catan's. I don't play Catan anymore, but like if you're getting people into the board game space, Catan's great.
Yeah.
Let's see. That's okay. Pandemic Legacy is a great game.
Pandemic is a good one.
Yeah. But if I'm gonna choose my favorite game of all time, it'll be Risk.
Yeah, that's a good one. Like, funny enough, you mentioned Risk because back in high school, we in my history class, we basically played Risk, and like we had our own factions. And I think like towards the end of that class period, like my nation I basically won because I made like really good deals and I was a really good delegate talking to like the group that says, hey, look, if you do this, I'll provide you protection, or if you do this, we do this. It was really good exchange and learning about build a bit of military strategy and like how like different parts of the world were affected during that period of time. So that was great. I don't really play board games too much. However, one of my favorites is actually it's Red Dragon Inn. Like that game is really fun. So basically what it is that it's a really like funny like parody like fantasy spin-off game where basically like you're like a wizard or a witch or a warlock or whatever in a bar, and like you have each character has different like traits, and you can get drunk, and if you get too drunk then you get kicked out the bar, or if you take too much damage while pulling like pranks and other crazy things against each other, you get kicked out the bar. It's really fun, like that one. And then I also had a lot of fun playing like of course like Pandemic. One of my old friends got me to play Pandemic with him a couple times at Risk. And then Haunting of the House of the Hill. Like
that one's a
Betrayal
House on the Hill.
Yeah, Betrayal on the House on the Hill. That one's a good one.
Yeah. They also have a legacy game for that one too.
Yeah, like I definitely love playing that one. So I'm hoping to actually play more games. And funnily enough, right after we talked to you, next day after we talked to you, there's a booth around the corner from you called Nomnivore Games, where they make a lot of tabletop games for neurodivergent kids, so kids with either autism or ADHD and stuff like that. And that's actually really good. So if you have like people in your family you want to get into, and you know that like, hey, they're dealing with ADHD or they're dealing with this, that, and the other thing, then this is a great way to kind of get them into it, especially if they feel intimidated. And then they have another game called Emberwind, where it's like the pipeline from like kid friendly to like more young audience,
like
more
strategy.
mature. But,
Yeah.
but what's nice about that game is that game lets you can play it solo. So you don't need to have a GM, and they have like a bunch of updates. So shameless plug, shout out to None No More Games. I'm not sponsored. I just love you guys. You guys are great.
Heck yeah, I love that.
Got a video on the channel talking about that too. So that's been really great. And then going into especially with you starting a business with your card game and getting yourself off the ground, I'm assuming that you got into the tabletop game space because of your love and passion for tabletop, because you have like a massive collection, yeah?
Yeah, it started off as a side quest. I've been playing games since I was a kid. I never thought I'd ever make a game. There was never a bucket list of mine. But last year I couldn't fall asleep. Like I was driving down from San Francisco to LA, and I was listening to this podcast, and they were just like debating Marvel movies, like what the best one was. Like, man, people love to rank stuff and just like debate.
Yeah, ranking, tier listing,
yeah.
Love it.
People love it. I was like, is there a game that does that? And I was looking that up, and there are some like ranking games, but there are other like super random and like obscene like stuff. Or it's just like there's no debate side to it. It's like, man, like when people rank stuff, no, they want to like yell at the other person, be like, "This is why you're wrong." Like, let me get into this, and you want a discussion about it. And
pounds beer. This is why you're wrong.
Literally, like you're an idiot, and this is why. And it's like all in jest, right? We're all friends.
Yeah.
And so I wrote down like 300 cards in like 2 days. I was like, man, like what's like a nasty thing to put in your ass? Like, oh, what's something that you don't want in your mouth? like, what about Marvel movies? What about this? Like, I just thought of like everything in my brain.
Oh, man.
And so I printed it, played with some friends. They were like, this game is great. Can I buy it? I was like, well, why not? Why can't we buy it?
Shit.
So I used to do a lot of Kickstarter. Yeah, I used to like do a lot of Kickstarters, buy a lot of Kickstarter games. I'm like, okay, well, how do I do a Kickstarter? Who do I contact fulfillment centers, manufacturers in China, and I just went for it. I was like, let's just go. Hired a graphic designer, and it came. We did a Kickstarter in August. We made $16,000 in 2023, which was crazy.
Nice.
Then it just released. It got the units in February, so it released in March. And since then, we've sold 2,000 copies, and it's been great. We're in talks of different stores right now, and we're gonna pitch to Target soon, which is exciting. But it's the hard part is like I'm my own kind of person, so I don't have a corporation to give me like endless money. I don't have like a wallet of like, let me just pull out $100,000 and do it. So it's it's really hard to juggle. Yeah.
No, for sure. I definitely could see that, and like I love the idea. And then with you saying that, like, okay, while making a game was not on your bucket list, what other game ideas did you possibly have while during this brainstorming process? I can imagine you just spinning off like cards and hours and hours and hours.
Oh yeah, dude, I have like over 800 cards. I have an anime expansion, a video game expansion, movie expansion, music expansion.
That was gonna be my follow-up question. Is like, are we gonna can we expect to see like expansions like start rolling out like as like more and more support for the game keeps coming?
That's the thing. So like 6,000 units. So all of the money that the 2,000 units came, ordered 6,000 more units that just arrived in August.
Yeah.
So depending on how the sales go for that kind of 6,000 units, it gets to determine how many expansions I can release.
Man, I can hear the vitriol for the anime debates in my brain. I'm like, oh no, this could probably start a fight, but we gotta get the camera rolling on this because we gotta know.
For sure. Like, what are your top 5 animes? What's your top 5 characters? Like,
exactly.
It's like all that stuff,
and like that stuff already happens on Twitter for free. So why not take advantage of it? What's funny is that I could definitely see this as like also like a game show idea where it's like, okay, like whoever can like change, like you got the dealer, and it's like, okay, whoever can change the mind of the dealer and get like the most out of it, they win money, and the questions start getting crazier and crazier and crazier.
Yeah.
That's insane. And what's funny is that we actually thought about this, like me and David, when we came back home. Because right now David has the game set because he's like the game guy because everybody else hangs out at his place. But we were like trying to figure out how to set up where we could do Discord, where we're like, okay, we have like one person like has the camera feed on the table with like the cards and like, okay, this is the card that we got. Choose your answers. We all like fill it out, and then we spend like the next untold amount of time arguing over it. So that's something like I do want to try, and then once I get that up, like I'll talk to David again like sometime later in the week because we have a lot of stuff that's been going on, especially with catching up with packs. So once we get through all this, I want to talk with him, do some sessions, and get some good stuff because I had a blast playing it. So definitely definitely check it out. It's available, I believe, it's on Amazon currently. And
yeah, on Amazon, Change My Mind, and then on our website, changemymindthegame.com.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
It's such a good time. Like I cannot recommend it enough. He was like Josh was so great with just meeting us, and like after talking with him now, it's like, man, it really does feel like I'm talking to a celebrity for like
man,
on some of these spaces, and it's just like, man, this was great. Especially the best part about with how we met is that he reached out to us after watching some of our content, and he's like, hey, I want you guys to play. I'm like, we've never had that interaction with anybody saying that, hey, I want you guys specifically. I saw your content. I saw your stuff. I love what you're doing. I want to get you guys to play this game. And then lo and behold, I would have bought like three copies and sent it to my other friends because it was a blast.
Dude, it was perfect because like PAX sends us a media list of who's going to be there. And I'm like, all right, let me go through I went through every single one. It's like, because the people I want to like meet and talk to, I want to make sure they're outgoing, they have opinions, and they want to have fun. And so I saw y'all videos of like, this is the perfect group of people to play this game.
Finally, test subjects. I'm winning here. Exactly. It was so insane. Oh my goodness. So yeah, I think that just about covers it. We definitely covered a lot of ground. Definitely love learning more about your experience. Getting you on tonight. I really appreciate your time, especially like a little bit later, because for me, I'm in Central Time, so it's like 8 o'clock. Got off work an hour ago, but I'm like, hey, I gotta go. I gotta talk to this guy. I gotta get this stuff going because I know it's gonna be a good time. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave this to you real quick. Where else can people follow? Go ahead, shameless plug. Does not matter. Where can people follow? Where can people get more updates, especially with new stuff coming for the game?
Yeah, you can follow me on Josh Saleh on Instagram, and then also Change My Mind the Game on Instagram, TikTok, and all the social platforms on that too.
Gotcha. All right, and then of course this is Brendan, aka AG Back Tech, sitting here in the cave talking with Josh tonight, or a very special post-PAX follow-up. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys. Love y'all so much, and I will see you guys next time. Good night.